Hey guys, TrueGreen7 here, and Pokemon evolution is one of the most exciting aspects of the Pokemon franchise. Most of the time, Pokemon look way cooler when they evolve, and it's fun anticipating the final evolution of your battle partner. But sometimes the evolution of our dear Pokemon can be pretty unexpected. In this video, I'm going to count down the Pokemon that look substantially different than their pre-evolutions. So if Muck is your favorite Pokemon, it ain't gonna be on this list, cause it's just a bigger Grimer. It really is a perfect example of what's not in this video. This list is definitely based on design and physiology, but stats will be mentioned here and there. Shelgon and other Cocoon Pokemon don't count, because becoming something completely different is kind of expected from these thick middle stages. Just keep in mind that I'm not saying any of these evolutions make no sense. In fact, they're all pretty well thought out. They just don't look the same, and that's why they're here. Pretty simple. Now let's begin with number 10. Breloom! Shroomish is a mushroom with a face and legs. It's not too crazy. We've seen him before, but what could this mushy little friend turn into? A bigger mushroom is the obvious answer, but you know what's like the least obvious answer? A dinosaur kangaroo with a mushroom on its head. Like seriously, this dude's hilarious. I love Breloom. It's one of the few instances in which the evolution is more adorable than the pre-evolution. But not only is it physically different, stat-wise we go from a defensive grunt to a very powerful physical attacker. Not only do these previously non-existent arms turn into uppercutting machines, but these stubby legs become muscular and supportive. Breloom definitely did not skip leg day. Number 9. Goodra. When you look at Goomy, you see a slug. When you look at Sliggoo, you see a snail, which just looks like a slug with a shell, I guess. But then what looks like a snail turns into a dragon. What? I'm just kidding. We all knew it was gonna turn into something dragon-like, cause it's a dragon type. But that doesn't mean it's not pretty weird. This is one of the only entries on the list in which the origin of the pre-evolved Pokemon and its evolution aren't even in the same phylum within the animal kingdom. But I actually have no problem with it. Out of all the entries, this one makes the most physical sense, since Goo doesn't really have a set form. If Sliggoo was a living creature, they could totally metamorphosize into a dragon. And at least they both share the same color scheme, which is sometimes rare in Pokemon. Number 8. Executor. Okay, this one makes the most biological sense out of all of them since seeds turn into trees. And if I have to explain why Execute are more closely related to seeds than eggs one more time, I will kill someone. Is a person's death really worth the argument? I sure hope not. Back to this monstrosity. Even though in the real world you plant a seed, give it some love, and after a long time, it will grow into a tree. That's not what Pokemon evolution is. In just a few seconds, these spherical creatures are turning into another creature with many shapes and forms. In terms of mass, physical space, and design, it really is comparable to a penny turning into a hedgehog, or a piece of paper turning into something that isn't remotely similar to a piece of paper. All I'm trying to say is that a simple design instantaneously grew into a considerably more complicated one. 90% of Executor's design doesn't even exist in Execute. An entire body is a pretty extreme addition. Number 7. Samurott. Till this very day, people are not over the fact that Samurott is the evolved form of Dewott. The progression from Oshawott to its evolved form seemed as if the final evolution was going to be a bipedal otter samurai. But then Samurott was revealed to be a quadruped, with more of a facial resemblance to a sea lion. What with its long snout and mermaid-like behind, even though it's based on the giant otter. Now don't get me wrong, I think Samurott is one handsome beast. I love him. But it's particularly here because other people seem to be frustrated with its design. But I have to admit that at the time it was the most dramatic change from middle stage to final evolution of any starter. The color scheme adds up, and it's not like any elements of its design weren't present in Dewott, but it seemed too sudden. Almost as if there was gonna be another evolution stage between Dewott and Samurott that would perfectly transition between the two. Every other final starter looks like the adult version of the middle stage, and Samurott's body type is just way too different than Dewott's. Number 6. Glalie. You know, when you go from a cowering little black munchkin with a straw hat on to a giant floating Oni head covered in ice, some questions are gonna be raised. It's not like it doesn't make any sense, I get it. Both are based on yokai with ties to snow and mountains. But this evolution chain has key differences that definitely warrant its placement on the list. You see, design-wise, the only thing that Glalie kept was its jet black skin and pearly whites, and I didn't really expect those to change. But everything else, like, well, its arms and feet, is gone. It's a cool change, but I don't add points just because it looks good. This Pokemon is drastically different than its pre-evolution, so it makes the cut. But it is fascinating how their stat distribution is literally the same. So on the inside, nothing changed. Number 5. Escalera and Excelgor. Both Carablast and Shelmet get a huge makeover in appearance, personality, and stat distribution when they evolve. Cause these two evolve when traded with each other, and in the process, the speedy Carablast kinda steals Shelmet's shell armor and becomes Escalera, a well-protected but super slow knight. This act of grand larceny turns the slow Shelmet into the fastest ninja bug around. Well, in Unova at least. The extreme transformation in concept upon evolving is perfect for this list. Number 4. Goliath Pod. So Game Freak is known for taking Pokemon that are famous for being terrible and making them evolve into Pokemon that would literally kill you if they were real. This usually accompanies a radical change in appearance. Wimpod is very familiar with this process. It goes from being a speedy coward with literally nothing intimidating about it, and I mean nothing, to a Goliath Isopod with basically everything that scares me. 8 limbs, black eyes, sharp claws, a huge stature, and ridges everywhere. The aura that this Pokemon exudes is the complete opposite of Wimpod's. Nobody runs away from a Wimpod, but hey, you like Goliapods? What's a Goliapod? This! You won't get that reaction from a Wimpod. He does have a cute run though. Look at these little feet. Number 3. You know these were coming. Gyarados and Milotic. They are the pinnacle of extreme Pokemon evolutions. I mean, if you had the chance to change your fate, would you? Well, these two did. Magikarp, known far and wide as the weakest Pokemon in the sea, evolves into one monster of a sea serpent. Gyarados is strong as butts, and if you don't have an electric type in your party, you're screwed. This is one of the last Pokemon I want to see in real life. And so is Feebas. Ew. He was created to be the most ugly, undesirable fish in Hoenn. When you encounter one, you probably want to throw it away. It doesn't look appetizing, but I feel sorry for anyone who passes on this bass, because this rare Pokemon evolves into what is, in my opinion, the most beautiful creature that has ever touched water. Not only is this alluring siren gorgeous, but it's incredibly difficult to take down, and its Hydro Pump hits hard too. The only reason these two are on my number 3 spot is because their pre-evolutions are at least pretty close to them in the animal kingdom, while the next entries aren't genetically close to their pre-evolution brethren at all. Number 2. Huntail and Gorbis. Gyarados and Milotic were obviously going to be on this list, but once I started looking at every Pokemon, I couldn't believe I forgot how extreme these evolutions are. So Clamperl is a clam, or oyster, or pearl, or whatever. It's definitely not a fish, and when it evolves it becomes an eel, with literally nothing that resembles its former self. Every other Pokemon family that we have previously seen on this list has at least one design trait that is shared. I'm looking at all 3 right now, and Huntail and Gorbis have more in common with each other than with Clamperl. Huntail even has Gorbis on its butt. I guess that shell bikini counts, but those are not these. I really don't know how they got the idea to have a pearl Pokemon evolve into fish that don't even have any pearls on their body. You never know, maybe Clamperl is actually a fish egg. And now 3 honorable mentions. Kabutops, Chestnut, and Blaziken. At least they're the same species and have the same concept as their pre-evolutions, but they are a big leap from Kabuto, Quilladin, and Combusken. And number 1 is... Octoliry. Yo, check it. So this Remora evolves into an octopus. A fish turns into a mollusk. And neither of them have any sign that they are related. It's actually pretty awkward, as if they don't want to associate with each other. I can't imagine a mother Octoliry caring for baby Remoraids. Now the logic behind this evolutionary family is actually pretty cool. Remoraid's design resembles a handgun, while Octoliry looks like a turret. And they're both animals that stick to things, but design-wise, personality-wise, and color-wise, they're completely different. It's as if they made a snake Pokemon based on a knife that turns into a turtle based on a shield. And that makes even more sense than Octoliry, since snakes and turtles are both reptiles. But I actually enjoy extreme evolutions. It makes the game exciting. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. Make sure to check out my previous videos by pressing here on the right. And it would be awesome if you followed me on Twitter and Facebook to become part of the True Green gang. I'll see you guys very soon.